There's something slippery about Jesus in the Easter stories. There's something playful, maybe a little mischievous about him, as if he's really enjoying being a new creation. He's just full of life, but it's new life, it's different, it's free. And one of the stories where I think we see this most clearly, brought out to its best, is in the story of him meeting two disciples on the road to Emmaus, which we're going to read in a minute from Luke 24, but it's depicted really well, I think, in this rich painting by Caravaggio. We're going to use our imaginations and join those disciples on the road. Maybe we'll meet Jesus, but if we do, let's hope he behaves himself, although I expect with this risen Jesus, anything could happen. You might find it helpful to shut your eyes. There'll be nothing to see on the screen except words, and you might see more with your eyes shut and just listening. But don't listen just to me. More importantly, listen to your heart as we go. Jesus is here. Anything could happen. Let's go. Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. So to begin with, just let yourself imagine the scene as you walk along this road together. What does it look like? What's going on around you? What's the scenery like? What's the weather like? And then, how are you feeling after these really tumultuous few days when Jesus has died and the whole world seems to have been turned upside down? What do you want to talk about? What's on your heart as you walk along the road? While they were still talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. How do you feel about this stranger coming alongside you, interrupting your conversation, butting in? Do you want to answer his question? What would you like to say to him? Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Is there anything else you would like to say to this stranger about how you're feeling right now? If it were Jesus walking alongside you, what would you like to say to him about your hopes or your dreams or the uncertainty of these times? And what do you think Jesus might say to you? Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. How do you feel when the stranger talks to you like this? And as he explains the Bible to you, how do you feel as he talks? As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on, but they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. So just let this scene play out in your imagination as you invite this stranger in, and he takes over the table and performs this very Jesus-like action of taking bread, blessing it, breaking it, and giving it out. Let it play out and ask how you feel. If Jesus was still with you, if he hadn't vanished, what would you like to say to him at this point? They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. So that's the end of the story, and it's the end of our little meditation. I want to suggest that you spend a bit more time with it today if you can. Maybe reading the story again from Luke 24, and just read it slowly and ask the same sort of questions as you go through it. Use your imagination. Perhaps you could go for a walk and imagine that Jesus is with you. And ask those the two basic questions really. If Jesus were with you, what would you like to say to him? And ask Jesus what he would like to say to you. If you can't go for a walk, perhaps sit down at your table and have a bit of food, a bit of bread maybe. And again, if Jesus was sitting with you at the table, if Jesus were breaking that bread for you, what would you like to say to him? And again, ask him what he would like to say to you. You might find it helpful to spend some time looking at the Caravaggio painting I showed at the beginning, and you can find that if you search on the National Gallery website. But I hope as you spend some time in this story of Emmaus, that you do meet with the risen Jesus. Because when you meet with Jesus, anything can happen.